Hi, my name is Jordan Michelin and I'm a junior.
And I'm Maya Klein and I'm a sophomore. And once again, we're both Jewish students here at Inspire who created a video that many of you saw on anti-Semitism within our community and what we can do about it. We got a lot of great questions and we'll try to answer most of them to the best of our ability. First, we'd like to remind you that, though it's almost never publicized or spoken about, anti-Semitism is still thriving. To give you a perspective on the constant prejudice and violence our community experiences, here's a list of some, but not all, of anti-Semitic incidents that have occurred since we last made our video a few weeks ago. We are sharing this list to highlight the awful intensity and reality of what being Jewish in America means. The hate and violence still survives and thrives under the silence it receives from the press. Even here in Chico, Sean Morgan, a city council member, compared OSHA, an organization ensuring the health and safety of businesses, to the Nazi Party. This is blatant anti-Semitism coming from our own city council. The first step to battling anti-Semitism is educating yourself. Be aware of anti-Semitic incidents within our community and talk to your Jewish allies about what you can do. Be proactive in the face of hate. Now on to our questions. We had multiple students ask what the education of Jewish history and culture is like within the school system and if it can be improved. The short answer is yes. Judaism is often sidelined in school, especially in places like Chico. Though it may not be the case for some Inspire curriculum, I was never taught Holocaust history. Everything I know about my own culture comes from my own research or my family. There are more than 7 million Jews in the US. Our history absolutely needs to be incorporated into our education. However, it should not stop at the Holocaust. The Jewish experience cannot be watered down to only pain or tragedy. Our holidays, customs, and culture must also be acknowledged. Beyond the facts and dates of the Holocaust, true human experiences must be taught as well. Jewish people are often represented as one whole group. This dilutes the humanity of each individual Jewish experience. Teachers can strive to introduce Jewish accounts of historical events instead of the perspective of an onlooker. For example, Schindler's List is largely from the perspective of non-Jews, focusing on the Christian saviors instead. They can also be aware of excess Christian centralized topics. Balance Christmas or Easter celebrations with acknowledgement of non-Christian holidays. Recently, the curriculum for California's proposed ethnic studies class has used Nazi ideologies to address white Jewish privilege in a way that has sidelined Jewish voices in an extremely anti-Semitic way. Make sure you're ensuring that your teachers are portraying an accurate representation of Jewish struggle. The lack of education around Jewish culture is largely to blame for the rampant hate that Jewish people experience. When the humanization of Jewish history is taught, the humanization of our culture will begin to be understood.
All right, so here are some guidelines for non-Jewish people during Jewish holidays. Here's a list of do's and don'ts. Do. If you would like to join services, you can ask a Jewish person if they will be attending and if you can join. If you're invited to bring food to a service, please go over what you would like to bring and the ingredients. For example, ask if the meal is kosher. If yes, then don't bring anything with shellfish or pork, and ask if the meal is with dairy or meat. And if it's Passover, then don't bring anything with leavened bread or anything that has to rise. This is to ensure that people will actually eat the food that you bring. And ask if there's anything you should know, wear, or be prepared for in advance, and this will change from one congregation to another. Don'ts. Don't hold your own Passover service or Shabbat service or holiday or other holiday services. This is cultural appropriation. Don't make Jewish holidays about Christianity or Jesus. It is extremely disrespectful to change our holidays to fit another religion. And don't bring food if it wasn't previously discussed for you to do so. This is to avoid a time where you bring food to a fasting holiday where no one can eat. Also, try your best with pronunciations of Jewish words. For example, the word challah. So, is not a sound that we have in our English language, but it is present in Hebrew a lot. So, don't say challah, even though in a transliteration it would be spelled with a CH. If you can't say challah, first try your best and then say challah if you really can't. And Judaism is a semi-closed religion. So overall, if you join services, you won't really be participating. You'll mostly be observing since you don't know the customs, and that's okay. And if you are invited to a service, this is a sharing of culture. Please be respectful and ready to learn. And in our last video, we mentioned that Hanukkah was not the most important Jewish holiday. So let's talk about what is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is also called the Day of Atonement. It is normally in late September to early October. Jewish holidays change where they are from year to year because we are on a lunar calendar. Also, to show the differences between our calendar and the Jewish calendar, days go from sunset to sunset, so they are over 2 days. And Yom Kippur is not a happy holiday. It's very solemn. And Yom Kippur follows 10 days after Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. These are both very important holidays referred to as the High Holy Days. And between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you work on atoning for your mistakes in the past year. Yom Kippur has a day-long fast, so no food and often no water as well. And people who observe Yom Kippur will likely take off school or work and spend lots of time in synagogue to pray intensely and fast if their health allows it. And the level of observance of Yom Kippur will change from synagogue to synagogue and person to person. And holiday greetings. So unlike Christian holidays, like I said earlier, many Jewish holidays are not happy celebrations. So it's not appropriate to say Happy Yom Kippur since it's not a happy holiday. So if you don't know if a holiday is happy or not, the polite thing to say would be have a good blank. Have a good Yom Kippur, have a good Passover, have a good Rosh Hashanah, etc. And for fasting holidays like Yom Kippur, saying have a good fast is great too. And it is appropriate to say Happy Hanukkah though, so you're good there. And now let's talk about being observant and Jewish in a culturally Christian place. It is very hard to be observant of Jewish holidays in Chico. For example, for Christmas and New Year's, we get 2 weeks off of school, but for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we don't even get the luxury of the day off. So for our school policy on observing religious holidays, we're only supposed to be able to have 4 hours per semester to go to religious services. I've been to services that are over 4 hours long alone, just for one. So that's a big difference between getting 2 weeks off versus 4 hours off for an entire semester. And events are also often placed on Jewish holidays. This is because on calendars, if Jewish holidays are there at all, they're often not put on correctly. Like I said, Jewish holidays go over 2 days, but on calendars, sometimes they're only put as if they're there on one, and that's a problem. In our area, it is very easy to be observant and Christian, and it is very hard to be observant and Jewish. And now let's talk about the spelling of Hanukkah. It really does not matter. So since it's a Hebrew word and Hebrew has a different alphabet when translated into English letters, it can be spelled in many different ways. The only difference is in pronunciation. Hanukkah with a CH has a Ch there again, and Hanukkah with an H is just pronounced like an English H. So if you can't say then you can say Hanukkah, and that's good.
Another question that was asked was, where did Jewish stereotypes come from? There are centuries of built-up myths and stereotypes about Jewish people. The anti-Semitism we see today has roots stretching back thousands of years. Perhaps the most dangerous and harmful stereotype is that Jews control the world. There's a cyclical pattern of anti-Semitism that is defined by an explosion of anti-Semitic violence and then followed by perceived safety. We can see this in the form of the Holocaust. The perceived safe period allowed the trauma of the Holocaust to fade and instead be replaced by fear of Jewish people that had since risen to higher positions of power. This fear manifests into an age-old trope of Jews are the enemy and results in incidents such as the Tree of Life synagogue shooting that occurred 2 years ago. This Jews are the enemy idea can be traced back to the rise of Christianity, which many historians say was also the rise of anti-Semitism. Ideologies that were spread by European Christianity as well as Catholicism included the idea that Jews were Christ killers, united with the devil, and were spiritually corrupted. Sound familiar? We see these ideologies permeating current neo-Nazi messages. Another extremely well-known stereotype is that of the greedy Jew. This is a systemic example of anti-Semitism, which Jordan briefly explained in our last video. In the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church taught that money lending was a sin, and therefore pushed non-Catholics into the essential job of money handling. As Jews became the face of capitalism, further hatred was stoked towards this position of perceived financial power. One of Hitler's propaganda pieces says, "The God of the Jews is money." This specific idea was taught to school children in Nazi Germany. Many physical Jewish stereotypes can be traced back to Hitler's propaganda as well. Images depicting Jewish people as hook-nosed, beady-eyed, and curly-haired feed the idea of othering Jewish people and taking away our humanity. Though this question wasn't asked, Jordan and I feel it's prevalent to address the use of the word Jew in conversations like this. Anti-Semites frequently weaponize the word Jew as a slur, which is why it's usually better to say Jewish people if you're not Jewish. This is probably the most frequent mistake that allies make when referring to Jewish people. The dehumanization of this word is completely unfair, but it elicits anti-Semitic tones when used by non-Jews. For example, if you were at the all-sophomore Zoom meeting on Halloween, you may have noticed that the word Jew was among other harmful slurs used in the Zoom bombing. This traumatic connotation makes using this word more harmful, so it's best to just stick to Jewish people. And this is an example of a comic where Jew is used in an extremely dehumanizing way.
Okay, so here now we have some other resources for you so you can still learn about Judaism and anti-Semitism outside of our videos. So for everyone, we would recommend the ADL's website. The ADL is the Anti-Defamation League, and they've been fighting anti-Semitism and hate since 1913. And to learn more about Judaism, we would recommend My Jewish Learning's website. But we would especially recommend the ADL's free high school level online course on anti-Semitism and hate. And we also have a couple of resources here for educators and one that works great for parents as well.
So our next video is going to be on the different forms of anti-Semitism and how they manifest today. So make sure you're looking for that in the perch and or an advisory.
Thank you so much.